Shadow 2, 1,500 rounds later. My thoughts, and is it still as awesome as I thought it was? Let's go take a look. Welcome back, guys. 7 up, 3 down coming at you tonight. Again, we're gonna take another look at the Shadow 2 now after having about between 1,500 and 1,700 rounds. It's closer to 16 or 1,700. I'm pretty sure. I've tried to do a rough count. Downrange and one very mild competition. It wasn't run hard or gotten extremely hot. Before we get started, the gun is completely empty. There is nothing in the chamber, no magazine in it. There's no ammo anywhere around me. First of all, we'll start off with the finish. The finish, as you can see, is immaculate. I mean, it looks literally like it did coming out of the box. There's not any noticeable wear on it of any kind. The back here on the hammer where the slide rides, obviously it's wearing a tiny bit, but the grips, these lock grips, have been on it for about 1,000 or 1,200 of those rounds, and they still, as you can see, look like they came right out of the package, quite literally. Which I realize that's not a phenomenal amount of round count, but it's not a slouch either. There's, you know, a lot of people that may not shoot that much. Fortunately, I get where I live, I can walk out and on my front porch and shoot and have a little range with steel targets and paper targets, and can shoot anything I want to. Anyway, with all that said, let's take her down. As most of you know, or if you don't know, most CZs have 2 lines back here at the back. You see the one on the slide and the one on the frame that you line up. Cock the hammer and get that spring pressure off of it. You line these lines up, and I'm trying to do this backwards, and then you press out. I don't know if I can do it on camera. Sorry, I'm going to have to take it off camera for a second. It's backwards to me. Line those up, and I usually take a magazine base plate, and you press the takedown lever right here. Get it lined back up, and well, of course I turn the camera on and I have all kinds of problems. There we go. Press it out and take it apart, and as you can see, it is still plenty tight. The gun hasn't loosened up hardly at all. There. Sorry about that. I'm working backwards with the camera here. It was cleaned and oiled before last weekend, before Big Johnson and Conish P and I's match that we went to. I cleaned it fairly well. It wasn't a detailed strip. It basically just field stripped it and cleaned it and oiled it. And what you're seeing is after a couple of 100 rounds, I think is what we shot through it, or in that match. This is a recoil spring assembly. Obviously, it's a little bit dirty, but there's nothing wrong with the spring. The guide rod, a little bit dirty, but obviously shows little to no signs of wear of any kind. This bushing or buffer, whatever you want to call it, yes, I know a lot of people take those out. I have left this one in. See if I can get, a lot of people say that in a few hundred rounds theirs are chewed up. Well, this one, at knocking on the door of 2,000 rounds, it has a little tiny ring around it that's not even, you can barely even feel it with your fingernail, where the spring rides up against it, obviously during recoil, but I guess it's personal preference. Some people take them out. It's got, in the box, it came with different thicknesses. This is the one that came in the gun from the factory. I haven't touched it. So far, no problems with that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The barrel lockup, even just sitting in here, is just extremely tight, just like it was. I mean, there's little to absolutely no movement in it. The finish on the barrel, you've got a little bit of marks up here where it locks up in the bushing, but that's, I mean, that's normal wear and tear that's going to happen. The locking lugs, everything, this is right after 200 rounds plus run through it. Got some powder on it, sure. Obviously the feed ramp that's normally polished is dirty, but the locking lugs look absolutely perfect. No high marks or any uneven wear marks on it of any kind. The slide, besides being somewhat dirty, and you've obviously got where your brass is riding across it in the magazine up here, there is in excellent condition. You can't see any wear at all. Of course, slide rails come polished on this gun, so they're shiny like that from the factory. But I mean, there's absolutely, to me, there's no signs of wear in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Here's the low, if you want to call it the lower, down inside here. Obviously looks like it did when it left CZ or when I picked it up. Absolutely no wear of any kind outside of being a little bit dirty. Just an immaculate an immaculate condition and a fine piece of hardware. It really is. You know, the only thing that I've had problems with, that I will say that irritates me a little bit, I went to adjust this magazine release just to see, because having two fingers on one hand, just to see if there was any benefit to moving it, which I think that's probably the best place for it, for me to be able to reach it. And this Torx screw right here, I've even heated up with a soldering gun. I don't know if they put some kind of unbelievable Loctite on it from the factory, but I cannot get it to budge. I'm going to fool around and have to take a Dremel and make a gentle score line just in that screw to be able to get a flathead in it and break it loose and then replace it with a new Torx screw. And this magazine button, the little pad right here, has worked itself ever so slightly loose. However, that screw is unbelievably tight. I can't get it to budge. I was messing with it the other night, just tinkering, so to speak, and I can't get it to budge, literally. I mean, obviously you can see where it hadn't completely stripped it yet, but it's tried to slip a time or two on me, and obviously I'm going to have to do some surgery to get it out of there. That kind of irritates me a little bit, but no big deal. It is what it is. The safety on it is still very, very positive. It's light. I've heard from some of the TSO guys that the tactical sports are a lot heavier than this. I mean, this thing you can flip just without even thinking about it. It's got a very positive detent, but it's also extremely light. I don't know what else to say about it other than I think it's probably one of the finest production guns out there. Is it worth the money? Is it worth $1,200–1,300? In some cases you can find it for around $11. In fact, I bought this one for $11.67, I think, plus tax. Yes, I think it's worth every penny of it, because you can run it not only in production, and while I'm talking I'll put it back together, you can run it not only in production class, but you could run it in limited, which then would allow you, and that's basically what I've done, you can put base plates on it. In limited, you could also put a mag well on it if you chose to. You can run a little bit different holster than you can in production, but you can run it in IDPA. It's legal in IDPA, which a lot of the factory competition guns are not. This one absolutely is. I know several people that have run them in it without any problems. Hate getting this recoil spring back in here, because you got to line it up just right with the hole on the end of it to get that guide rod to come through like that. And that's probably why a lot of people don't run that buffer, but whatever. It came with it. I haven't had any problems. If it keeps from banging the having a bunch of metal on metal contact back there, then so be it. I'll leave it as it is. Not bothering me, and I haven't had any problems. There's even some people, if you do a Google search, in fact Cajun Gunworks, and I think CZ Custom Shop does they've got some that they've removed the rear side and did a slide cut, and they're putting RMRs on it, and people are running it in the carry optics division. I don't particularly have any desire to do that. I've had several pistols with RMRs. If I was going to do that, I'd probably do it with something else, but you could conceivably run it in open, I guess, then, if you wanted to send it in, have a brake put on it, and an RMR. But I think it's a very flexible firearm for the money. I think you get a lot of gun for the money. To me, I would class it right up there with, if you want to talk 1911s, with some of the higher end 1911s, but not the kind of money. I would say, in my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, this gun from the factory matches up with a lot of the custom 1911 makers that are north of $3,000, $2,000 to $3,000 and up, and this gun does it from the factory for $1,200, give or take a couple of $100. And I've heard that the Tactical Sport Orange even takes this up even more. However, it's a single action only. It's not a double single action gun. But anyway, just a short other little look at it to see what kind of wear, if any, we had after going through nearly 2,000 rounds. With the exception of that magazine release that really kind of bugs me, but not to mention it's scored up a little bit, just the screw, nothing else is, and I've got to get that out of there and fix it. With the exception of that, I mean, the gun's immaculate, and I haven't necessarily been phenomenally easy on it. Obviously, I try to be careful with it, but it's been in and out of a holster a lot. There's no holster wear of any kind, a Kydex holster, by the way. There's absolutely no holster wear on it of any kind. The barrel looks to be in excellent shape. Up around the bushing, there's little to no wear on it. Just overall, an excellent gun, I think, for the money. For what you're getting for the money, I think it's one of the best buys out there if you're looking to get in any kind of competitive shooting. My next purchase, some of the guys that I've always looked at them, but several of the guys that I've hung around lately are Big Johnson, and some of the other guys on YouTube are big CZ fans, and I've always been a CZ fan, but I want to try either a P07 or a P09. There's a lot of people that are actually running those in the competitive shooting sports and are doing extremely well with them. In fact, there's some that use them in bullseye matches. They're supposedly so accurate and such a well-made gun, very much like this one, but less than half the money. It's a polymer lower, and it's got an Omega trigger. It's got a little bit different trigger in it, but still an excellent firearm for $500, give or take. And people are loving it and competing with them, running the same kind of competition classes as you would with this one. That's probably my next one, either that or the P10C. I want to take a look at, pick up for myself. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I'll get this over with, and thanks for watching tonight, guys. That's just my take on the gun after approximately 16 to 1,700 rounds. I'm hoping in the next weekend or two to go back to another match with it, and we're going to run some more through it. And obviously I practice here at the house all the time with my little range with steel targets and paper targets that I can step out on the porch and shoot if I want to. So we'll keep running it through it, and maybe in another couple thousand rounds or so we'll take another look at it and see where we're at. Thanks for watching tonight, guys. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time. 7 up, 3 down, out.